Okay. Yeah, I guess I could just do the introduction and all that. Ooh, it has been a day. It has been a day, Tracy. It was Deb's mom's birthday. We got to celebrate with her. Had a lot of fun, a lot of good times. Um, Days go by so fast, man.
They
Yeah,
do.
I'm shutting the blinds at like 5. Ugh. But anyway, GBR family and everybody, this is Miss Tracy Scoggins. Um, I have to refer to her as an on the spot OG. I believe you were the second one that I did. I can't remember anybody before Fred or after that. It was you, but that was back in, I think. Do you remember when it was? I want to say late February or early March. It was
I
some.
think it was March. I think it was
Okay.
March. We were
This seems
scheduled
right.
for February, and I got sick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Gosh, that's right. Yeah, we were like I think 240 or maybe 250 strong members at the time. And I was telling Deb last night, I was like, man, babe, I was thinking in April and stuff. It was right after, because did Fred's and it was pretty good, and yours was great. I was like, okay, I can maybe just keep doing this because they weren't bombs, they were powerful. And I mean, I thought that was really awesome. So I was like, yeah, maybe by the end of the year we could hit 400 members. Now it's just pretty amazing what God's been doing. But I just thought it'd be cool that Lisa couldn't do hers tonight, and we were talking, you and me and Deb, and after the live the other night, the celebration surrender day deal, and I was like, well, maybe Tracy would want to come on for a little while and talk with us and share some stuff that's been going on since the on the spot and recently. So this is kind of a way to like reintroduce yourself to the group. And I mean, you were a vital and still is, in my opinion, a vital member of GBR. Um, I remember we were just in the early days, we were just posting a lot of stuff, and it was just mostly us. And we thought it was kind of just dropping off. We didn't really know where it was going, and maybe both kind of burned out a little bit. And it took off from there. So, um, but yeah, I think you're one of the most valuable members of this group. Always has been and always will be. And it's great to sit down with you again and to hear about everything that's been going on, good or bad or otherwise. And this is not really an on the spot part 2, but kind of. It's just a conversation. And so, everybody, this is Miss Tracy Scoggins. And how are you doing?
Not doing too bad. Not doing too bad. Definitely had my ups and downs. A
Um,
lot of valleys, actually. A lot of valleys. But
since since the on the spot, I mean, it hasn't caused you to lose your faith or step away from God though in any way, right?
oh no, 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 no. If anything, it's caused it to grow.
Yeah.
But I still don't. I'm growing. We're always growing. So I tend to run from God when I'm in the valley instead of running to God. I run
Oh,
to
okay.
people. I run to people. Well, what people's always going to fail you. So you'd think I would learn. I think I'm learning. I think I'm learning.
Um, yeah, that would be I've definitely had those moments, a few of those moments this year. When I was really bummed when when my Facebook got hacked, and this card I was using was getting ripped off of money. And there was about a week there where I was just like, here I am doing all these right things for the most right reason, it seemed like, and everything. And I didn't have any thoughts of like using or nothing like that, or stepping out or leaving the house or none of it. But it just kind of humbled me and brought me back down to a little bit of safer ground, so to speak. I was having too many thoughts and not just letting things happen. Um, so I look back on that now, and I mean, I'm appreciative for it. I don't know if that was necessarily a valley, but it was definitely a tough moment for me to like swallow swallow my pride on. So what's some of the things you want to get into that you want to, talk about, like to be more specific about some of those valleys? Like what does all that pertain to?
Well, like on my original on the spot, I gave my testimony, and um, a lot of the valleys I've been going through are with the self doubt and the worthlessness and just the rejection and suicidal tendencies that I swore I would never go back to. And specifically, the last few weeks, I've found myself back there. Um, Never thought I'd get there again. It just goes to show that no one's bulletproof. You
No.
know,
What do you think?
I go ahead.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. You're probably answering what I was going to ask.
I isolate a lot. I've always been so dependent on myself because I can't depend on anybody else. That's the way I was raised. I had to take care of myself from 6 years old on up, so I don't rely on anybody. So I've isolated, and that got me in a bad place. Didn't get me away from God. I still pray. I do everything that I always do, but I didn't pull on that faith. I knew he was there. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I was still doing it. Like self-harming, haven't done that for 2 years, and I did the other day. And I could have been prevented had I reached out, but too embarrassed, too embarrassed. Who really
Yeah.
cares? Who really cares?
I mean, do you think that's what you thought at the time? Like, who really cares? Which was the
Yeah,
answer to that was
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
at the time.
yeah.
Do you
Nobody.
think? Do you think people? I mean, people do care, but if you're isolating, how would you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, you know what I mean? And you're talking about self worth and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I don't know how we can measure any self worth when we're isolating and thinking that self harm is some kind of a solution. Of course, we don't know what our self worth is non-existent. I mean, I would think, and you said you've been there before. You've been in those rooms of isolation, like you knew the surroundings. I mean, was it somewhat comfortable because of the familiarity? You were just like, oh, here I am again. Don't know how I got here, but okay. And what
Yeah,
what
kind of.
what? So I'm not going to ask like what specifically do you mean by self harm? I don't think that's fair to ask. Um, I mean, people can really make their own assumptions with that. I mean, we're assuming it didn't go any further than that, though, and it hasn't been repeated, and no thoughts of doing that tonight or tomorrow or coming up. Was that the lowest point?
Um, no, so I'm not like it doesn't bother me to tell you. A lot of people that self-harm cut, I don't cut, I burn. So I burn myself, and I only I say only, but only is too many. I did it twice about 2 weeks ago. And as I'm doing it, I'm saying, this is stupid. This is stupid. Why am I doing this? Because I knew it was wrong, but I still did it. And I just went down from there. And I opened the door. That's what I did. I opened the door to the enemy, and he took hold, and he almost took me out.
Can I can I ask you a question then? And I just want your honest opinion on this because there's no. Well, I guess I would have to ask that before I ask this. Was there any drugs or alcohol involved prior to the
No,
self harm?
no,
Okay, so the disease of addiction's not really there, but
no.
was
I
that
haven't
old?
smoked. I haven't smoked a cigarette, smoked a joint. I haven't smoked any drugs. I haven't drank in over 2 years.
Okay,
No,
that's
nothing.
awesome. Um, but that okay, so no drugs and alcohol is involved, but they say the devil's always right around us. He doesn't really care how good we think we are doing, how far we've come, how many years you got clean and sober. You say basically you open the door and let him in temporarily or whatnot. So there's no, it's not logical or rational to want to burn yourself. I mean, I think that's not a really sane thought, temporarily at least speaking. So for me, I'm thinking, well, who would want to do that? Who the devil would want to cause stuff like that? Um, and it seems to me like he almost kind of hijacked your free will for a little while and made you try to feel extra guilty because you said you were like, "What am I doing while I'm doing it?" So
Yeah.
that seems to me like some low, at least low level spiritual warfare at the very least. I won't say possession, but I mean, if I get bored, I'm not going to sit around thinking to do something like that. So you're already in a dark place. Nobody cares. Isolation, familiar, self worth, and that's what it got to was self harm. And I hope that was the worst of it. You spoke before we went on about going to you named it freedom something
A freedom class. Yeah.
and
Freedom
feel
class.
and that's helped you. That's freed you up literally in some sense. You want to talk about that and what all happened
Yeah.
there?
So my church it put on a freedom class. It was an all day class of just breaking curses, breaking DNA curses, just breaking. And when I woke up yesterday, I'm like, man, I don't want to go. I'm tired. I don't want to go. I've been looking forward to this class for a month, and I woke up. I didn't want to go, and
Really?
I knew I had to go. I knew I had to go, but I went prepared. I took my anxiety medicine with me just in case, and I said, okay, if I'll just I'll go. I went. They said, well, we're going to break you up into partners. And I have a big thing with partner. I don't know. I don't feel worthy enough. Man, I don't even know how to explain that. Like anxiety overtakes me when it comes to coming into partner with praying over people. And it's weird because it's only in my church. Like talking to you don't bother me. Talking to people on the street don't bother me. Open arms doesn't bother me, but my church bothers me. I don't know. So they told me that we had to partner, and I'm like, Lori, I'm out. I'm going. And she's like, no, you're not. You're staying. I said, no. And I broke down. And I mean, she's like, we're going to partner. She said, God told me before you even got here, we were partnering. And I probably lost a gallon of tears yesterday. I shed so many tears. And it was the hardest class that I've ever been to. And I've been through a lot of classes with my mental illnesses. And this was the hardest class I've ever had to go through. But I walked in suicidal and I walked out happy and free. So something broke.
Is that amen? Is that a class they have quite often, or was the timing?
No, this was the first time they had it. They had special speakers come in.
Ain't that you gonna call that a coincidence or God's timing?
Everything's God's timing.
Right? Yeah. So that's incredible just in and of itself.
And the hardest part of the whole class was, I guess a lot of people that on here on GBR don't even know any of my backstory at all.
Please.
I deal with a lot of mental illness. I came out of a lot of mental illness and struggled with it my whole life. So the hardest part in that freedom class, you had to take 5 labels. Okay, they were literal labels, and you had to write on them things that you had attached to yourself, like worthless and failure, and 5 things that were how you felt about yourself.
Wow. Okay.
And then you had to stick them on your shirt for everybody to see. And I couldn't do it. It took Lori and God a lot of time. I couldn't do it. And I did. And then we had to stick them on a picture of it's a picture of a person. And you had to put those labels on there and renounce that. And then you had to go over those and say, instead of I'm a loser, I'm a victor. Instead of a reject, I'm chosen. And that it was powerful. It was powerful. But it was the hardest thing I've ever done. The hardest thing I've ever done.
Wow. But worth it.
Worth it. Very much worth it. Very much worth it.
Was that just a one-time thing? And I mean, did that really reverse those labels for you? Like, did you feel that in general, or?
I felt freedom by the end of the class. Now, do I feel completely free of everything? I thought I did until today. After church, went somewhere and anxiety hit me, and instantly my mind went to, you're no good. But I stopped it. I stopped it in its tracks. I was able to stop it. The thoughts didn't leave instantly, but I was able to fight them. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, when I talked to you and Deb, I wouldn't have been able to fight them. I was in that low of a spot.
How'd you fight them? What'd you say? What'd you do?
Just, I know that I am chosen. I know that I'm worthy. I know that it's all been nailed to the cross. I know that.
And that anxiety lifted.
It did.
That was the devil you rebuked. Once again, I keep thinking that you made the devil flee.
Yeah.
You're gonna sit around trying to. We don't. I mean, do we really make ourselves anxious and fill ourselves with anxiety? It usually just comes out of nowhere. For what reason? You were fine, right?
Yeah. I get hit with anxiety all the time. All the time.
I mean, I might be looking at stuff too deeply sometimes. I don't know everything, but it just seems like if you're just chilling and you're doing okay, going out to eat or something, and then the anxiety just hits you out of nowhere. I mean, that's got to be a spiritual negative energy. I mean, like, we don't create that. I mean, so I just don't think it's just like, oh, well, people just get nervous for no reason sometimes. I'm like, what do you mean? That doesn't. I've never been able to understand that. Maybe a psychologist will say that so they could write a script or something. But
you know that we've had that discussion.
I don't have nothing, and I mean, I'm not that I'm proud of that or whatever, but I've never was on any like pharmaceuticals or nothing like that. I mean, people probably could have argued that I should have been, but I'm just glad that I've never had that. Anyway, I don't want to go down to that route, but would you please like maybe reintroduce yourself a little bit and think of something, because I can't remember all the questions. I should have like brought them in here because I know I still got them all written down from our original on the spot, but I know there's specific highlights. I hope you share with us. Maybe
you want like the short testimony?
Yeah, and the identity change too, I think, is just absolutely phenomenal, powerful. And I mean, I just want to give you the floor. I don't need to ask any questions. I might think of some, but just take it away.
I sure hope.
I will.
So I don't have like a big and we discussed this when you came to me with this group. I don't have a big drug recovery, or I wasn't an alcoholic. Well, I was an alcoholic, but I wasn't a drug addict. My recovery was from homosexuality and pharmaceutical drugs. I was labeled as bipolar at 8 years old, and they ran with it. And I had been drugged my entire life. And, I wasn't wanted. My mom didn't want me. My dad molested me. My brother beat the crap out of me all the time. Lived on the streets. I did turn to drugs and alcohol. I drank a lot when I was younger. I mean, that's when I would say I was an alcoholic, but I got into the occult, and anything negative I wanted a part of. Anything negative. I didn't want anything positive. But there was a lot of ups and downs with that, but mainly my testimony is just the fact that I lived in a homosexual relationship my entire life. I was married to a man. I had my daughter. We were married less than a year. After that, I got straight into a relationship with a woman. We were together for 14 years. Then I left her for another woman, got married, was married to a woman in Lincoln for 5 years, and got into more drugs. But drugs never ruled my life. I could always stop the drugs. It was the pharmaceuticals that I was on. I was on every antipsychotic and every benzo and every antidepressant and everything. And it was all at once. I was on 30 pills a day for over 10 years. So in 2020, me and my wife got a divorce, and I gave my life to God, and I had an encounter with him like I could never would have dreamt, but I didn't change in that instant. I moved out of Lincoln, got away. Things got worse. They put me on more meds and more meds and more meds. And in 2022, I was so bad. I was having the police at my house every day. They were doing welfare checks on me. I had a case manager. I couldn't do. I was at the bottom of the bottom. I didn't want to live. Period. I remember it plainly. On June 1st of 2022, I overdosed on a bunch of benzos, and I remember the ambulance guys coming. And I told him, I said, "You cannot save me. I'm a DNR." And he said, "I got news for you. I can save you. You tried to kill yourself." It's the last thing I remember. Three days later, I woke up in the psychiatric ward, and the case manager came in, and she asked me if there was anything I wanted. And I said, "A Bible." This was June 4th. I said, "I want a Bible." She brought me a Bible. I got down on my knees, and I just cried out to God. And I said, "This is it. This is it. You gotta take me, because I can't do this anymore." Well, then the psychiatrist that was in the hospital decided to take me off all 30 medications at one time and give me electric shock treatments. So they gave me 2 shock treatments, and the second one, I told him, I said, something went wrong. I couldn't quit crying. Something went wrong. I said, "You're not doing that to me anymore." And he said, "Well, if you're not going to let us do it, you can go home." So they discharged me.
Gosh.
A week later, I was at the movies with my grandson. And my daughter, she asked me, she said, Mom, are you sure you want to do this? It's when the new Jurassic World or Park or whatever it was came out. And it was in the IMAX. And as soon as the music, the sound came on, I flipped. She had to take me back to the hospital. I got put back in the hospital. They continued to they wouldn't allow me to have anything to calm down. So by this time, I was not eating. I was throwing up every second. I was freezing. I was cold. I was hot. I was having seizures. I was a total, never should have lived. Never should have lived. And I reached out to Pastor Larry many times, and he would be like, worship through it, worship through it. Every time I turn on the radio, anything, the sound, the smell, everything put me into a panic attack. If I closed my eyes, I had a panic attack. I had no sleep for a month. Every time I closed my eyes, instant panic attack. I couldn't open the door. I couldn't go out of my house. And I just cried out to God the whole time. I'm like, God, the only way I lived was God. And I told him, if he got me through that, I would never go back. Never. And I will tell you, since June of 2022, I have not had a homosexual thought. I have been med-free for over a year now. I do have an anxiety med that I take on a very rare occasion. I haven't smoked. I haven't drank. I haven't done pot. I haven't done crack. I don't cuss. He delivered me of everything. I now have anxiety, but God. I have no desire. Yeah. I shouldn't have lived. I shouldn't be alive. The suicide attempt should have killed me. It didn't kill me. Them cold turkey taking me off all that medication, that should have killed me. That should have killed me right there. But God.
I mean, that I couldn't imagine what, I mean, that was 30 different prescriptions, right?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. I was on.
How would they? I
don't remember all of them, but I was on gabapentin, and these were all at max doses. Like they were either maxed out or above. So it was gabapentin, Seroquel, topiramate, Zoloft, Ativan, Wellbutrin, Geodon, and then, there was other ones too, like my Lipitor and blood pressure pill, but most of them were psych meds.
Well, they didn't do it. I'm sorry, but they didn't do a damn thing for you other than to make you worse and almost kill you.
Yeah.
Other than that, what was the benefit of them from the beginning? There had to be one, right?
I look back and, my daughter, she'll tell me, in fact, we'll get in arguments because she'll tell me that I did stuff. And I'm like, I would not do that. And she's like, Mom, you have no idea. She said, I've seen you with tubes coming out of you. I've seen you on a ventilator. I don't remember any of that. Don't remember any of it.
I mean, they just made money, Tracy.
They made a lot of money.
You were a bipolar cash cow. When people hear bipolar, they said you were bipolar at 8. The brain's not even formed. No. So when they say bipolar, what they're saying in their little desks and offices around the table is cash cow. How many can we get on them? I mean, I'm 47 and I haven't heard one successful story of being on Zoloft, of anything. It's just because it wears off eventually. You're going to get the max dose, and then what? Oh well, That's it. I'm okay now. I'm okay. Exactly. What are you going to graduate to?
So you're
Psychosis?
gonna you're gonna
Song
graduate to being
therapy?
poly drugged like I was. That's
I mean, for crying out loud, they all these damn commercials on the TV and Abilify, all this other stuff. So these psych meds make a person end up having shock therapy. Doesn't sound like they're successful.
I've had a
You'd think they
lot.
would keep you as far from shock therapy as possible and not suicide attempts. So sorry, Big Pharma. It's in, I mean, that's in the Bible, by the way.
I
I
have
just, I,
I
you
have
know,
my whole perspective on everything has changed so much. I mean, God has opened my eyes so much. In the last 2 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and there's been a lot of times where I'm thinking, okay, if I just went back on it, if I just went back on one antidepressant or one something, maybe, just maybe I wouldn't be up and down like I am. But I went to a conference at my church last year, well, at the new year, 2024. It was a Fortify conference. And I heard God say, plain as day, you keep trying to open doors I shut. And
yeah.
yeah, have I thought about getting back on him? I have, but I can't do it. I can't. I won't. I won't.
I mean, I do know, and I will say, obviously, that there are some anxiety medications that if taken as often, maybe a little bit less than often as needed, that they work. I've seen it work. I've seen
They
the
do work.
sustainability. But it's
I do take an I do once in
yeah.
a blue moon, but that's
These are
because I'm terrified. I'm terrified. What happens when they take it away? Because
yeah.
I didn't have a problem being on the meds. Well, I did because I was not a very nice person, from what I understand. But
Yeah, you said it.
my main fear is them taking it away from me. They took all those pills at once. That was
That's
horrible.
insane. Well, that's evil for one. It's
Yeah.
evil. It's evil upon evil. She's bipolar at 8. Here's 30 pills. Oh, let's take them from her. I mean, it's perpetual evil at its finest. It's pharmakia. Um, I digress on that somewhat, but it seems to me that with 30 different pill medications, dark spirit type of stuff, mentality and all that, homosexuality, it seemed that God doing what only he can do, he had a lot to heal. And that's not even
Yeah.
talking about all the sexual abuse and whatever else in the past. But there was just so much he had to remove. And I'm not saying he couldn't have done that like that, but it's almost like he had to let you feel and go through all of that. So it wouldn't have been too easy. If you just would have woke up and been like, give me a Bible and I'm good. Oh, whew, that wasn't so bad. You might have digressed back into something. I might need a Zoloft. I might need to do this. Let me get some weed.
Yeah.
Oh, she looks attractive, or there's a cool Satan poster or something. God had to
The
really let you feel everything. You felt
the only
decades.
thing, I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that this has been a process, but I can say, just as you can say with your addiction to drugs, I can say that I was completely delivered from homosexuality on that day, because it's gone. It's been gone. It's gone. I know that for a fact. The
Has
the
that
the moods, yeah, that's a work in progress. That's a work in
okay?
progress.
I mean, the devil can't use these moods and these anxiety attacks and everything else to get you to go back on medication. He can only hope that you would get mad enough at God to turn her back on him somehow. Like he's a loser, Satan. I'm talking about. So I don't even understand like why he would keep trying. Um, I
I
you've
feel,
always
when I was little bitty, like little bitty, I had a lot of negative, well, evil I would have a lot of quote unquote prophetic evil sightings. You know, I would see bad stuff happen. I would see the devil. I would see all. So from what, I've been trying to work through and everything, there's just some really deep roots that just need to be broken off, and they're being broken off, but it's been a slow process. And by me isolating, it slowed the process. I was making progress, but then I hindered myself by starting to isolate.
Oh yeah, that in a sense, the isolation was a little bit of the door opening.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but with the anxiety and all that, I mean, you're better now than you were a few days ago. You know, you push back against the anxiety, but do you think it could possibly be like one or two things, or maybe more, that's in the past that still maybe just not all the way healed from yet, or surrendered, or maybe it's too subconscious? Like, we could definitely, um, you know, what's the word when you hide some certain things so deeply we're just not aware of it at all. Um, like, is there anything that you think that could still be there that you just haven't really given up yet, surrendered, or accepted that the devil may be using against you today?
Mental illness. I still can't accept that it's a battle every day. Is this the enemy, or is this really a mental illness? And until I work through that, I don't think I'll ever be free, completely free. Because every time I take a step forward, I get hit with something. And it's like, well, okay, so is this the devil, or is this truly a mental defect?
Man, that's tough, because you don't know. You
I
can't
don't know. And
you can't
and
accept.
my whole life I've been told that. So it's hard. It's very hard. We all have that one vice that the enemy's going to go after.
Yeah.
And mine's my mind, and I know that. And that's where, and I've been praying a lot lately about the helmet of salvation to keep my head protected, keep my mind protected. And that's something I just started praying the last week or so, and I don't even know where that came from. It just came out of my mouth one day, that helmet of salvation. It's got to protect my mind. I've got to. Because
I
I've got
mean,
a story, and a lot of people are going to be set free with my story. But if the devil's got me on my mind, I ain't no good for nobody.
that's 100%. Did everybody just please tell me you heard what she just said? The devil's trying to get her to isolate, to make her feel like she doesn't have any self-worth, trying to attack her with anxiety and all this other stuff, making her think it's her or him or not. He's trying to just get in there to create this barrier and this blockade, because as long as you keep going to God, he's the answer for either one, your mental illness or the devil, because he's the one that
Yep.
can restore you to sanity. But if the
Yep.
devil can distract you long enough, isolate you long enough, deplete your confidence and all that long enough, sometimes I think that we could get to such a point to where it's just like we're almost too exhausted to even pray, because
Yeah.
it's just, I'm so deep. There's no way he can even hear this, even know I'm in here. I know he won't forsake me, and we can take it almost for granted, but it's just like I'll just wait and not do anything. And you're 100% right. And just this is reminding me of like our first on the spot when I was just learning all this stuff as you were telling me. But your story sets you apart in certain ways, and there's others like you. But I'm just saying, the way that you share this story and your testimony, the devil hates you. He just hates you for this, because he needs others to stay how you used to be. And if you isolate and don't feel like talking or self-worth, and you get selfish with your isolation and your depression, that's exactly where the devil needs you. He don't need you to be homosexual anymore. He don't need you to worship him. He don't need you to take Zoloft. He just needs you to not rely on God anymore. and keep you silent, then he wins. He collects those souls. You know what I mean? And your testimony can gather souls for God's glory in his kingdom. And the devil hates you for it. He hated you back then. He hates you now. He'll hate you forever. So you just can't keep silent. You cannot do it. And I applaud you and commend you for speaking out about this again. And that's just scratching the surface as far as I remember. Let me ask you this. First baptism, where was that at? How did it feel before and after?
Well, my first baptism, I was a little girl, so I don't remember that real well.
Okay.
I just know it because I have a certificate that's lost somewhere. But I got baptized October 11th, I believe, 2020 at Open Arms, and
In 2020.
in 2020,
Heck of a year.
huh?
It was a heck of a year in 2020.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
What a year to get baptized. I mean, really.
A lot happened that year.
Right, but sorry to interrupt you. For that one in 2020, how'd you feel going into the pool and coming out?
I was hesitant going in, and this is something else that I don't think anybody. I don't even think Pastor Larry really knows this, and he's the one that baptized me. I wanted baptized. I gave my life to Christ, but I wasn't ready to give up my life. But I wanted to do what everybody expected me to do.
Wow.
Which was to get baptized. And a lot of people and pride took over. Everybody was so happy. Oh, we've prayed for this for so long. We're so proud of you. And I lived in Petersburg, and somebody from Lincoln came and got me and took me over there, and I got baptized. But when I came out of the water, I knew my life was going to change. Didn't change instantly at all, but in fact, it got a lot worse. But yeah, so going in, it was kind of a deception. Coming out, it was there was something happening.
And you knew you weren't creating that.
I knew what?
You knew that you weren't creating that feeling, that thought of whatever it was you felt when you came out of the pool. Yeah. That you weren't putting on a show or appearances.
No. I knew something had changed, but it was just, and it took a long time to change, and honestly, do I think that if I wouldn't have went through the episode with all the pills and being taken off of them, do I believe that I'd be serving God the way I am now? Probably not. Do I love God? I've always loved God. But do I think I would be serving him? I would hope I would, but we have to be real, and I don't think I would. I'd probably still be smoking. Probably still be doing dope. Probably still be drinking. But I'm so grateful I'm not, because I'd be miserable.
The regret would. I'm just trying to put myself in your position in a sense of how far you've come, what you felt after you came out of the pool in 2020. So, I mean, all the things you've been through, surviving the suicide, the pills. Gosh, I mean, to fall back in that sense. Well, first of all, you pick up where you left off, obviously, but I just don't think I could take the regret. I just think it would be too much. And of course, we can't, shouldn't ever say never and be that confident in it. But man, I just love God too much, and I love this way this last year has been for me. I couldn't live with myself if I walked away and started doing the stuff I did again for whatever reason, and be like, man, I wonder what November 18th of 2024 would have been like, or December 25th of 20. I couldn't live with the what ifs. I just love being in the what next. What do I have now that I'm grateful for? There's so many reasons to walk away, and there's no reasons to walk back to it at all.
No, I'm not. I would never go back. I would
Right.
never go back.
I'm just saying I'm with you on that. That I just
Yeah. No.
as bad as any day could get in the future, I'm walking through it sober. I might have a sleepless night, but I'm never picking up or drinking again for none of it. What God's pulled me through, I owe it to him to at least show him that
Amen.
much.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me it's a personal thing somewhat. Everybody's walks a little bit different and stuff, but I just want to keep giving him reasons to trust me, because I've asked him hundreds of times to pull me out of a situation. If you help me out, I'll do this. I'll go to church Sunday. I won't do that no more. And he helps me out somehow. Situation gets a little bit better. And I'm like, whoo, see ya. Till the next time I need him. So I've walked away from him so many times. I'm just trying to be like, okay, I'm going to be obedient no matter what, but I want to show you that I can face some stuff on my own. I never have before. If it gets too heavy, I'm going right to you. I know you got me anyway, but I just want to keep giving him reasons to trust me. And it just feels right, and it feels good to do. And that's how I feel like I can't earn my salvation or none of that. I understand that, but I can sure pay my respects by, walking on my own a little bit, knowing that his son's at my side. And it just makes a world of difference for me. Like, I want to be able to steer the wheel sometimes for myself and not always need God's hand on the back of the bicycle. You know what I mean? I just, it's I want him to be proud of me in some ways. That's just kind of a thing for me personally. And people might say that I'm doing that wrong, but don't judge. It's just something that I enjoy feeling. What's been let me ask this. Let me get back to you. Um, why did you feel like your self-worth was depleting and diminishing? How did that really start though? Because we talked the other night, and I just wasn't. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't aware that it was that deep. Um, I just assumed you were just fine, and I shouldn't have done that.
I think a lot of it's anger. The root of it is anger. I I I'm not I'm not like an extreme angry person, but there's definitely some anger there, and um
At what?
just people.
Come
Just people.
on, well, come on, tell them about it.
You're supposed to love everybody, and I'll do anything for anybody. I had a neighbor threaten to kill me and was very serious about it because I was a Christian and I didn't drink and I didn't do this, and I had to get a restraining order, and so the same man that threatened to kill me was laying on the ground right after I had surgery on my foot. And I seen him and I said, okay, God, what do you possibly want me to do? Well, I went down and got this man up off the ground. The same man that threatened to kill me. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I'd do it again. But boy, I sure don't like people. And I got, I'll do anything for anybody, but I just don't. I don't like people, and I got to get past that. I want to help people. I
You
want to help
did,
people.
though. You did. You're
I
saying
did.
you're really saying you only did it because you knew it's what Jesus would do or what God would want you to do as part of your obedience.
Well,
But
I
it still
literally
doesn't.
asked God. I'm like, God, what do you want me to do? I'm
Is
like,
there any other way?
my foot. I just had surgery. I could hardly. What? And it was down a hill. What do you want me to do? And I know he told me, and I did it. I went and helped him up.
Did you ask him if you said it was downhill? So did you make sure you're like, well, am I gonna make it up if I help him up? You both could.
And I guess that's where the faith comes in, because I knew I had to go do it, and I did. I
Faith
did.
sometimes. I guess
And
faith sometimes.
a couple weeks later, we were in court in front of the judge, and I had to ask him. I'm like, didn't I help you get up? And he's like, yes, you did. And I said, and I would do it again, even though you threatened to kill me. Yeah. And he admitted that he did it. I mean, so I have a kind heart, and I love to help people. I just don't like people.
This is interesting to me because no, it really is. Deb knows what
Okay,
I'm
well,
kind of
another
thinking.
example, my
Yeah.
ex
Go, go,
from
go.
up there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I met her, she was married to someone else, and she was getting ready to lose everything. And I lived in Springfield, and she said, I'm not going to have electricity, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what? Gotta watch not to say her name. You know what? I'll put the electricity in my name, but if you see, I can't even use the words that I use, because I don't do that anymore. But if you mess me over, I'm going to kill you. and I put the electricity in my name before I even moved it. I mean, eventually we ended up together, but I just have a heart to help people. Well, I really don't like people.
That's so.
You wanted a real. That's as real as it gets.
I get it. I mean, at the same time, I just got to relate to you on this real quick because it's a lesson for me. Ah, gosh. I mean, I guess I relate to you more on that than I even care to admit. But here's what I know. I can't force myself to feel something I do not feel.
Exactly.
I can do stuff because I know it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't mean that I have to do it like, come on. I don't know what that feels like. It feels phony to me. And if something feels phony to me, it reminds me of 40 other years of my life where I was phony for a reason.
Yes.
And it always caused me to not like myself. So we gravitate towards who we gravitate towards. We can't. I've said this a million times, and I just don't know what it's like. It says Jesus loves everyone. Love your neighbors. You would love yourself, and all this. And I'm like, okay, neighbor doesn't literally mean the neighbor next door. It means everybody. But
everybody.
My point is, some people are just unlovable. You have to love them from afar. You have to love them just with prayer. You have to love them enough to be willing to leave them alone. And if I see reflections in somebody else's behavior or actions or words or thoughts that were like mine or I'm not embracing that. I just can't do it. And if I feel like people are overly crappy to people, it's a turn off for me because I've been that way. I've done these things. And I'm just like, hope they make it into heaven. Their way may be a little bit different than mine. I can't embrace what I used to hate about myself. And I don't think I have to. It feels like there's always going to be somebody else for me to like grow with. I mean, the only thing I can learn from a person that I don't like, and what I'm saying when I don't like them is that they're a reflection of how I don't want to be anymore. I've already been that way. It didn't get me to anything but 2 suicide attempts and loss. So I'm like, I can't embrace that because that would be me liking parts of my old self that I had to give
Right.
up.
Right.
Um, doesn't mean that they're a bad person with everything else. Like it's not
No.
defining them. It's just I'm from afar. Like, I can't do that, man. And I think that's okay with me. But at the same time, if I keep turning blind eyes to all of it and not recognizing it, it just stores up. And I'm like, well, maybe a bad day is going to come around where I am going to dip back into that old behavior because I chose to ignore it. And so many people that I see and so many actions, is it going to become me again? Am I going to keep turning blind eyes to who I still could become? Because I'm like, whoa, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like I'm not disrespecting or hating on anybody. It's just that I hate the sin that I see in others that was always in me. And
Yes. Yes.
sin was all I had. I mean, I didn't know I was sinning for 30 years of my life. What do you mean? I was just I
You
felt
lived a normal
entitled.
life.
If you live a life feeling you're entitled, sin don't come into the picture because you're doing what you feel like you deserve to have and what you need and what you desire. You should get it all because you didn't have nothing growing up. So sin doesn't play no part in it for me. That's what I'm thinking. If you're entitled mentality, everything is yours to have. And if somebody else has got more than you, they shouldn't have it. You should take theirs from them. And I was a very crappy person for a long time. But I still knew that I was good somewhere in there. But the older I got, the scales just outweighed it, and I can't ever get too comfortable to where I almost condone or tolerate or justify somebody else's actions, behaviors, words of other people, because that's exactly how I was. And if I don't say anything about it or ignore it, it's going to store up in here. And I cannot have that. I can't die to myself daily, but keep accepting things in other people that I can't stand for myself. Sorry for hijacking this, but that's what you just said. And it made me, it reminded me of that. So it's your fault. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess it's still a learning process for both of us,
It is, and it always will
and that's
be.
fine. I'm fine with
I
that. I admit that. But know
I
this, Tracy. I mean, I think you're the same on this. If I say I'm going to be there for somebody, if I'm, and maybe I'm not doing this perfectly. Like I said, I kind of thought you were okay and doing fine and busy with other stuff, and there's only so much time in a day, and but if I say I'm going to be there for somebody, I'm going to check in on you, ask you how you're doing, and I want to know how you're doing. I'm going to keep showing up for that because that's what I want from other people. I'm never going to be able to do it perfectly, but I'll do it consistently enough to where people are like, oh, yeah. Like, that dude cares. He really does. And I like that.
and that's
If
what
I,
I struggle with is believing anybody cares. That's where the whole self-worth comes down part too. Is does
okay,
anybody really care? I can be replaced, and I just feel like I've been replaced in so many things that I let it get to me. See, that's the devil just uses all the things that I didn't even realize. Like there's some jealousy in me that I didn't realize that I had, that I've got to get out of me. There's anger that I didn't realize was as bad as it is.
hmm,
Um, a few weeks ago, and I reached out to Deb, and explained a little bit to her. I had an altercation that could have very easily and almost did become physical. It did not become physical. The other person said it became physical, but it did not. And but it very well could have, because boy, let me tell you, I haven't hit nobody in a long time, but I sure would have liked to have plowed her. And I wouldn't have. I did think twice, but but I came real close, and I shut the door on her so that I wouldn't hit her because she wouldn't leave. So I didn't slam it. I just shut the door, and she in turn said that I shoved her down the stairs and she got hurt, and it turned into a whole big thing. And I was a wreck, and I'm like, you know what? God, you know what happened. Should I have shut the door? No, but I didn't hit her, and God knows that I didn't push her. And everything worked out, but that showed me how much anger I really got in me, because I was way too close to becoming physical, and
Well,
that's not a good thing. That's never a good thing.
right, but the self-control outweighed the anger there. You could have left the
It
door
did.
open. If you didn't
It
shut the
didn't.
door, it might have been a different story. What the hell? What caused what caused this? I mean, you don't have to say, obviously don't say her name, but what's she doing in front of your door anyway?
Well, it was about an elderly gentleman that I help once in a while, and she neglected to do something, and I confronted her about it, and it just she started calling me all kinds of names, asked me what
Getting
kind of drugs I was on. I could
oh
live with
boy.
that. I could live with that. And then she said, "You're nothing, you must be mental." And that was my trigger right there.
Wow.
I've been mental my whole life. And that she called me every name in the book and I was fine. The second she said mental, I snapped. That was it. I've came way too far and worked way too hard. And yeah.
She just seemed pretty defensive. It sounded like she got overly aggressive, which usually is a sign of
Well,
the accusation being true.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I never accused anyone without proof, and I had proof.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah,
so
she's not around no more. You don't see her.
no,
There's no
no,
contact.
no,
That
no.
that situation took care of itself.
Yeah.
It could have been so much worse.
It could have been. It could have been.
God looking out for you
2
again.
years ago, it would have been. 2 years ago, there'd have been it'd been a
Oh
whole
yeah.
different story.
Well, you might have been opening and shutting the door several times, if you know what I mean. I digress. Sometimes the jam just won't latch. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean anybody's heads in the doorway. Too much. Well, you're laughing. You probably, yeah, I can see it.
You know,
So
I
she's
heard I
like,
wasn't a very nice person, so who knows?
hey, we've never had no beef, and I don't have any doors on my house, so I'm good. I'm safe. It's just a screen. Um, man, you're laughing. You're smiling and laughing. Your body posture and expression is different from the other night when I talked to you. I'm glad the freedom thing. Gosh, I forgot the name again. It just seems that God's got you, and I just get the anxieties there and some other issues, and but it still sounds like you're winning. You're on the winning team. What do you think you need to like build that self worth up again? What would it take for you to? I know you only got so much time today. You work a ton, but I just need people to know that have never seen your story before or even know of you. That you've been a moderator in GBR from the beginning. You were the second on the spot guest I've ever had. You're a dear friend to Deb. I'm a better person for knowing you, and you are a vital part of GBR. Whether it was 200 members or 4,000 members, what would it take to get you to feel like you're a person to go to in this community and in this group? Or
I
is that
guess
something not as important, really? I mean, I'm not trying to like be like, there, get your self worth with GBR. I'm just saying, what
no,
do you think you need?
the group was very well, it is very important to me, and I'm so proud of the growth in you. I guess where I felt out of place in the group was because I'm not a recovering addict. And that's the main, you don't hear of anything else. You know, you don't hear of the mental illness or the addiction, the food or homosexuality or transgender or any of those other issues. It's all recovery, which is wonderful because there needs to be a place. And this is an awesome place. And you've made it into an awesome place. So I don't ever want to discredit that. But I just feel like I want to be part of it. And I want people to know that if there's anything like anxiety, depression, sexual identity, anything like that, I'm always open. I mean, anybody can hit me up at any time. And I would be more than honored to walk through or talk through or whatever, lift up, pray. I would be honored to do that. I've just kind of taken a back seat because it's more of the recovery, and you've got your focus and you've made a big difference in that. So
I absolutely agree with you. Timing is everything, though, however. And as we keep adding members to this group, Deb will tell you, even after we get done doing this, that I've been talking with her about, I want more than just addiction stories. I know it says God-based recovery, and the word recovery may change eventually.
Well, recovery is a lot of things. I mean, I'm in recovery, but it's just
true.
It's just not the same.
No, but I'm saying that, like, there's, when I do like the words, I pick the words out and I talk about them. I mean, I'm going back to years before I even knew what drugs and alcohol was, and I'm trying to show that the pattern is established at a very early age of how we get addictive mentalities way back then. Or like somebody was diagnosed as bipolar at the age of 8. There's mental issues and abandonment and all this stuff and trauma, molestation. All this stuff comes into play before any drugs and alcohol enter our bodies. So it's like I almost want to like talk more and focus on pre-addictions and pre-care, so we can like stop this in youth that's coming up. You know, transgender identity, kids wanting to have sex changes and fur babies and all this other stuff. They haven't even gotten to the drugs and alcohol yet. It's probably going to come to that, but there's a mental crisis, health crisis in this country, and there doesn't need to be any drugs or alcohol involved whatsoever.
No.
I think 2020 kind of proved that, and that's often the politics. I don't want to get into that, but I've told Deb, I'm like, I want to talk to more people and expand this in the sense that, like, you know, I want to talk to cops. I want to talk to, like, you know, veterans, military veterans with PTSD. I want to talk to abuse victims. I want to, that has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. If that's a part of it, okay, that's a part of it. But I just want to keep branching out because there's a lot of people that need recovery just in general. And they may not have any history of drugs and alcohol. And so I don't want it to always remain just about, well, you didn't have an addiction, so you got nothing to recover from. You know, I'm smarter than that. So I got to like make sure I start expressing that. And you kind of coming back into the fold a little bit more at the same time just is a blessing, because this is, I don't know if you know Jim Biggs, but he's very big into mental health. Lee Chandler was like a mental health counselor at school. And so I could just see this starting to branch out the way I hope it does. Of course, God's will's got to align with that. But you might get 4 or 5 on the spots in the future that have nothing to do with cocaine, alcohol, or nothing. And that's fine with me, because I feel like I could talk to anybody about any issue. It don't have to have no drugs and alcohol involved in it. So you're right. And we need you to champion that. If you need to start reaching out and finding your own people, God brings people to you. You shoot a live, you go live, you do an event. You're like, I'm talking to this person live. And you don't even have to talk to them live. I'm just saying, the more people that get to see these things, it helps. But
I would like to focus, me personally, I would like to focus on helping people with not just the mental health, but with the sexual identity. I really believe that there's a calling on my life for the sexual identity part. Yeah, I feel really strongly about that.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot on this one. I mean, who would just answer this honestly? Who would, between me and you, who would be a better host with talking about sexual identity with a female or a guy?
Female.
It'd be you. You would probably be more equipped to talk about that than me. I mean, I'll admit that. I know that. So that's some. I mean, not that I wouldn't. I would, but something like that.
Well, something else you don't know. When I was little, I wanted to be a boy. I wanted a sex change. And I think that plays into a lot of why I want to advocate so much now. There's just so much confusion. You know,
Okay.
I'm 51 years old. I was thinking about being a boy when I was like 6, so 40 years ago. And if it was that bad then, it just the world's gone crazy now.
So
And
I mean, oh,
go ahead.
I mean, in a sense, well, what else do you got to talk about drugs and alcohol? You're kind of over that in a sense. You got a bigger agenda that's more important to you. Um, stuff like that, and transsexuality, surgeries for kids, stuff like that, and how that, I mean, I know your Bible, but this is all stuff that I really couldn't hold my own in a conversation with any of that. I was talking about seasonal depression the other night, and I'm like, somebody help me out. I don't really know much about it. I've heard of it. So this is what I'm asking people to do. The ones who I feel like they got way more experience, more lived experience and knowledge, education on certain topics and issues, I encourage them to just start reaching out and trying to be and specialize in those areas. Do you know what I mean? So I was getting to the point where I was going to ask the Tracy Scoggins out there. I'm like, look, you got more of a background in these issues, topics than I do. It would be silly for me to sit here and talk to somebody about sexual identity. I've always been a male. I've never had any other thoughts, gay wise or nothing. So what am I supposed to ask? I wouldn't know the questions to ask. I wouldn't be able to relate. So stuff like this, I just want people to, gravitate towards these certain specific areas. Recovery, addiction, that's my thing. I could talk a little bit about trauma and childhood and stuff like that. But like if somebody said, hey, talk about your siblings, I don't have any. So how am I going to talk about it? You know what I mean? Just as an analogy. Yeah. If you want to start leading this stuff, I just encourage you to put posts out, start a separate chat and be like, look, these are the things that are important to me in my life. This is where I could probably help other people find some self-worth in. Hit me up if you want to talk about these things. We can talk about them live or whatever so they can help other people. But just champion this. I give you the absolute floor to do that. And because I can't cover all that stuff. I don't know anything about trans and stuff and sexual identity and homosexuality. That's not my field. So that would be arrogant and ignorant of me to try to I'm going to talk to somebody about homosexuality tonight. Well, how am I supposed to if I've never been that? I mean, I think it's wrong. It's in the Bible. That's all I got. But somebody like you could relate to them and the mentality with it and the warfare and the ups and downs of, am I okay with it? Is it not okay? I mean, I just ask you to if you've got a certain cause that you feel like you could use this group for, I've said it from the beginning to everybody, make this group your own. And create what you want to create and help people in the way you want to help them. Definitely don't need my permission or Deb's. Just start your campaign, tell people what you're about, what you got experience in. Pharmaceutical stuff like that with 30 pills. I mean, people could go to you and talk about that. And I just asked you.
I could probably tell you more about those pills than the doctors will ever tell you.
And I believe that. And see, like I'm saying, I've never been on any. So what would I do with somebody, like you're just telling me all that stuff? Like I don't, somebody that knows the pharmaceutical company and prescriptions better would have better questions to ask you that would further help people. Like I can't think of too much to ask them. Like, ooh, 30 pills, that was a lot, huh? You know what? I'm like, that's all I know. But other people might be able to know more about Zoloft and this one and that one and hone in on that. And that would help people more than just me being like, oh, that's a lot of pills. You know, I'm not self deprecating, but I have my limits. And I'll never proceed acting like I know more than I do about something. That's where I would just like, oh, Tracy's talking to somebody tonight about this topic. I'll be in the chat, just watching and listening so I could get educated. So I ask people like you and others who've got certain things they really feel like they want to talk about that they've got lived experience in and knowledge in, just start campaigning for that stuff. The drugs and the alcohol, the addiction and relapse, that'll take care of itself. We're based on that. But there's just a bigger world out there than just drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all you got.
I implore you to do that.
I mean, it's definitely something I would think about. I mean, I don't know that I would know, well, like all these live streams and stuff, I have no clue how to do any of that. I'm about as tech illiterate as they come, but.
Well, that's what Deb's for.
Deb's there, not here. I mean, I can get there. Maybe we need to set something up, Deborah.
Yeah, I mean, because they're not that. If that would be something that would prevent you from doing that, don't let it be, because it's simple. I don't know nothing about it, but they're as easy as. I mean, you made a Facebook account. They're not really any harder than that. They're actually easier. I mean, there's nothing to them, honestly. But I mean, until you know, you know. But what's your okay? So besides that, then what would you want the next few years to look like? What do you want to be doing? Like you don't like people, but you still want to help them. So tell me what that.
Ain't that an oxymoron?
Hey, you're talking to him more. Tell me what that looks like for you. How do you want to help people, but not stand them at the same time?
I want to help people get free. That's what I want.
And that's most important.
People get free. Yeah.
Okay.
In the next few years, I can see me being a very strong advocate for the transgender, for the whole that whole community. I can. Yeah, I can picture myself. And this sounds odd, as weird as because of the fact that I don't like people, but I can see myself being, I don't know if you want to call it a stage, but on stage, speaking and
tell them. Okay.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I mean, I can literally, I'm picturing it. I can see it, but I got to get some stuff right in myself before,
Fair enough. That could be the exact reason for all these attacks lately, because the devil knows what's about to happen to you too, and he don't want you to get there. You can't be on a stage in isolation.
Every time you get close to breakthrough, I get attacked.
You know that,
and there's I've had a few people have pretty much the same prophecy over me about the transgender, speaking up and speaking against the transgender, but not throwing rocks. And until I can get to that point where I don't throw rocks, because there's a person down the road, and I'll just be honest, there's a person down the road, and she had a sex change, so she's a man. And I never would have known that if somebody didn't tell me. But now that I know that, it just irritates the life out of me. And I know that God's using that to build me, because I refuse to call this person Shane. That's not her name. You know, it was Shay. Now it's Shane. Well, no, I'm not going to call you what you were not made to be, but I have to take a better approach to it. And I got to get that worked out before I can ever go preaching to anybody. So I know God's working on me with that. I'm not there. I'm not there. It irritates me.
But you know that's coming. If you stay the course,
I know it's coming. I know it's coming, but I got to quit throwing rocks. Got to quit throwing the rocks.
I got you. And because, sometimes
when everybody was coming at me, even Pastor Larry, when he was coming at me because I was living in a gay marriage, boy, that just burns you. I know how that feels.
Yeah.
So I gotta quit throwing the rocks. Gotta quit throwing them. I know what I got to do, but I'm gonna do it. I know I'm gonna do it. Okay. I don't know. I know it. I know.
I have faith in that. I mean, I have faith that you'll do that because, I mean, if you're staying the course, having faith in God, going to Him, praying, being obedient, it's kind of par for the course. So you kind of know it'll happen. You just don't know when. Yeah. You can even drag your feet on that one or drag your heels, but that's probably where you're going to be led to. And the devil's like, no, don't do it. Have some anxiety. Like, it's just such lame attempts at this point from him. And I shouldn't downplay it. I mean, but the only way he can win is if we give in to him and give up. Right. That's the only way he wins. I don't think you're doing that. That's why I kind of said it so casually, because I don't see that in you. I don't see a quitter in the sense of quitting now what you become. You know, you quit who you were. Then I just think the best years are to come. Like, I think these next 5 to 10 years are going to be absolutely amazing. And I've said the recovery revival, and I don't just mean that with drugs and alcohol, but the recovery revival is enormous, and it's probably bigger than I could even imagine. And I'm just a tiny speck part of it. I'm going to do whatever I'm supposed to do. There's things I want to do that I haven't done yet, which is hard for me because I'm like, this is what's working. I feel like I'm getting better every day as a person. I'm giving up things. Here's a big lesson that I think it applies to you too, because Deb has told me this, and this is what I see. It's not about what you know, it's how you say it and how you approach people with it. Yeah. And I'm learning that literally every day.
And that's what I'm talking about with the stones. I got to learn how to, I always speak the truth, but do I speak it in love? I had a pastor point that out to me. I'll tell you the truth, but I'm not always the nicest about it. Not always the nicest. And that needs work, because you can't get through to somebody that's hurting by being rude and blunt, and you just can't.
See, this is I'm not going to get into it. I'll digress. Deb knew where I was going. There's people on Facebook with huge followings that know the gospel, preach it very well, but will have vague posts to kind of reel people in, and then just literally disrespect and crap all over them in the comments, call them keyboard warriors, be disrespectful.
There's a few I blocked.
But at the same time, I can say that because I feel that way, but it doesn't mean that it discredits everything else. But it just means to me, I've never seen Jesus be rude to somebody, disrespectful, or mock them in order for them to believe in him. So if you're trying to lead people to Jesus by doing it in a mocking way, how is that going to work for me, who already believes in Jesus? What do I need to listen to you for?
Well, it's just turning people off. It's just turning people off.
Supposedly, it's designed that way and done on purpose, which really is even more of a lame reason, in my opinion.
There's one that I was kind of... He had some very valid points, and I actually started watching him through you guys, and but then some things were being said that, okay, your Bible, amen, good for you, but you're going to call somebody stupid in the next sentence? No, Jesus didn't call you stupid. So I eventually got to the point where I just blocked that one specifically, because I got tired of seeing the posts. Because, you might be preaching something, but your attitude behind it and your words behind it were something totally different. So there's something there that's not aligned. There's something there that's not aligned.
And that's it. And that's it for me. Like, I don't discredit the knowledge, the smarts, the wits, the way things are put together. It's just the delivery sometimes just reminds me of me, how I've been, how I thought I was so right with something, and maybe I was right, but here's how I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. And I'm like, we can't stand that because I've always been that. I don't need, I got a Bible. I know where church is. I don't know what else I'm supposed to be gathering, plus if it's just like, there's somebody else who could do it in a more decent, civil way. Meet people where they're at. I don't want people preaching to me on high if I'm not up there with you. Just meet me where I'm at, and then we'll go together. If you can't do that, then I got to move along. Good luck to you. You'll be fine. You don't need me. But, I'm not going to just stick around because it's trendy to. It's a lesson to myself. That's all. I don't need to disrespect or, crap all over people either, but it's just like.
Well, no. And, I read my Bible every day, but do I know the Bible? No, I don't. I don't know. I can't tell you something that somebody that's been studying their whole life has. So I can't really preach on something if I can't back it up. And that's just me personally. I'm not going to say something unless I can back it up. And I guess that's where I feel that's where I feel insecure about a lot of times, is because I know what I believe and I know that it's in there, but I don't know. I can't tell you exactly where or when, or so it just brings out an insecurity in me because there's so many other people that are more knowledgeable and I'm not. I have a hard time learning, period. And
I'm with you on that. The older I get, I have a harder time attaining certain knowledge and certain things I'm reading. But at the same time, like the self-realizations, the unlearning that's going on is spectacular. I mean, this last year I've had so many, oh, that's what that is. That's what I was doing. Well, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm able to drop it just like that. And it's happened so many times on so many different levels. I'm seeing the errors of my ways and I'm able to speak about it. And I'm like, yeah, that was really dumb of me and immature, but that's how I was. And then I'm like, now when those situations come up in the future or something, I want to correct them for myself because it's my obligation to, and I love being able to do that. And I don't expect to get things perfect. I don't know the whole Bible either, but I'm walking with Jesus. And as far as I know, we're all walking with Jesus at different paces, but the path is the same width.
Yep.
And that's fine by me. My life is better than it's ever been.
Amen.
I don't know about my life in general, but there's no desire for alcohol or drugs no more. The things that I've grown from this last year is just miraculous. I don't know how else to say that. And I don't know the whole Bible. I love reading it and doing everything like this, but my goal is to become a better person by the day. Whatever way that has to be, I'm fine with it. Yeah. But I'm never going back to where I was. And if I have to move on from some people because they remind me of who I was, I have no problems doing that because that's God telling me that certain people are for seasons and you keep moving. I'm like, cool. Yep. So we got way more things in common than I did realize. So I need you in this fight. I need you to find your self-worth, redefine yourself, whatever you want to do. You don't have to talk about drugs and alcohol no more. Recovery is so broad. That's what Jim Biggs said a while ago. I mean, I've got way more things to. Recovery is, in a way, discovering. I want to know who I am without the trauma, the baggage, the lies, the deception, all that junk. I just want to know who I am. That's what I'm trying to discover. It's beyond recovery.
Right. And that's what I'm trying.
Yeah.
That's it. Trying to figure out who I am and where I belong and convincing myself that I am worth something and that I do have a purpose. I know I have it, but convincing myself of it.
Yeah, well, you do have a sense though of what
I have a sense. I know what my purpose is. But I know it's confusing. I know what my purpose is. I know what it is. But I don't. I guess it's hard to accept that. You know, I
Really?
know. I'm not explaining it right. I don't know how to. I know what I'm going to do with my life. I know it.
Okay.
And I can say it and I can be confident in it. But I guess the thought of actually getting there intimidates me, maybe. Maybe that's the way.
Well, man, I can understand. I can understand that.
Like we going back to my church. Like when I'm in my church that I go to now, I feel less than. When I walk into, and I'm just using Open Arms because that's where I went for so long. When I walk into Open Arms, I feel I belong there. And that's so backwards. You know, I haven't went to Open Arms. I haven't lived in Lincoln for almost 4 years. I've been going to Radiant Church for almost 2 years. That's my home church. I'm a member there. I've never been a member to a church ever. And God one day said, "You're going," because they had a membership class. And I'm like, "I'm going where?" And he's like, "The membership class." And I joined the church. But yet I feel so out of place at that church. And it's not that they're not welcoming. It's not, but I'm intimidated. It's an intimidation thing.
Okay. Is that, you think that might be because there's just so many people that's been there so longer that maybe have tied that?
There's
like
there's a lot of spiritual gifts in that church. It's a very, very, very Holy Spirit filled church, and it's a thing where I have to learn that just because I don't have the gifting that everybody else has, I still have my own gifting.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Is there a lot of tongue speaking in that church?
Oh yeah.
See?
Yeah.
That's something with me too, because we'll talk.
Well, I
about
have a prayer language. I have one, but and I believe in all of that. But it's intimidating because a lot of it'll be, well, let's pray in our prayer language. Well, to me, I can't just, maybe obviously people can, but I can't. So then I feel less than.
No, I don't know. Who's okay? So if they're doing that, who's around them that's interpreting that language?
We do have people that interpret when there's corporate prayer like that.
Corporate prayer.
When there's corporate prayer, when someone speaks in tongues, someone does interpret.
Yeah, I'd have to really experience that for myself. Like, I don't know. That doesn't bother me like it used to. I was like, well, I can't really advance in faith and in the church and all this because I don't speak in tongues. I don't worry about none of that stuff no more.
Well, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
If it happens, it happens. But exactly. When I see somebody just looking like they're turning it, see, that's just how it looks to me. And I don't mean for this to sound any worse than what I'm just trying to say. I could be ignorant on it. Let's just assume I'm ignorant. It just seems like somebody has learned how to, some people have learned how to do it so well and make it sound so good that they can just turn it on and off over and over. So I'm like, that can't be how that works, especially in today's age. There's just no way. Because I thought tongues back in the day was supposed to be, language for so many different languages and tribes and ethnic groups and all this. You wouldn't think we would need tongue speaking and interpreters so much these days with Google Translator and all this other stuff. I don't know. Do I believe it's a real thing? Yes, because the Bible says it is. But is it something required to get into heaven?
Oh no.
So I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all. But to me, I just have a hard time. like, I don't know. Like, I can't say, well, they're faking it. I don't mean to say that. I'm just like, my mind and eyes can't, and ears are like, okay, that could be real. It may not be. I don't know. But, it doesn't make me not believe in anything else that they're saying or talking about. But I'm like, that just seems somewhat rehearsed sometimes. And
Well,
I don't
I
doubt
can
it, but
for you, and I know that you respect him, Pastor Darren. Have a conversation with him.
okay. But and I think I'll do that. I think I will do that. But at the same time, he's going to have to probably understand that, like, it's almost like ghosts. I guess ghosts are real, but I've never seen one. So until I've really experienced it, like, for myself, I just assume it's real, but I don't have proof of it. I mean, what I mean by that is I know it's real, but when I see it in other people, I'm just like, I don't know. That might get me some hate mail or something, but I have
Well,
a hard
it
time.
might, but
I
but
don't
you know
know.
what? We should be able to put aside the differences because we all have
I
one
just,
goal.
yeah.
We all have one goal. We don't have to agree on everything.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Like I said, I'm open to
But
like experiencing it for the first. I mean, maybe I'll start breaking out tongues. I don't know, but then they'll be like, "He's not. He's just making that up. He's not." I'm like, "You were just.
you know
That's
what?
what
Who
I was
cares?
saying."
But who cares what anybody else says?
To me, it's just not important. I mean, it's important for whoever's doing it and whoever interpreting it for whoever. But to me, it's just like hard pass. Like, I don't even really want to do it, but then again, if I'm supposed to, it'll happen. I'm just keeping it real with God. He knows that. I'm not sugarcoating nothing or anything. It just seems too rampant. Like, almost all these YouTube videos and all of a sudden, just shut it up and shut it up. I'm just like, is this trending on Twitter or something? Is like every single one tonguing and every sermon? Is that like getting more money in the plate or something? I kind of, I don't know. It's a turn off for me. It doesn't make me like lean in to listen more when I hear somebody doing it. It's
And
definitely not a
and
joke.
I do get
Because
that.
I
I do
don't
get
want to
it.
do it.
I do get it. I do.
But
And I'm not going to, it's not something to judge on it. Knowledge is a powerful thing. So,
yeah, oh, it definitely is. Um, I don't even know how interested I am in it.
and a lot
I
of,
don't.
and the tongues that
I
starts
mean,
so many fights. There's so many arguments over that when it's really nothing to argue over.
uh,
The Bible says that it's real. So it's real, whether or not you choose to
yeah, but
seek it out or
they
I
never
don't
said
know.
how long it would be real. Like, maybe it was real back then for a time, but and they didn't put like a time frame on it. Jim Biggs says the early church fathers never mentioned it after 64 AD. But now it just seems like it's around more than it was back then, and it doesn't make any sense to me. You'd think we would need it less than we did back then, but I mean, I don't know.
And see, that's where you just say we are going to agree to disagree.
Okay,
It's not
I mean,
worth. It's not worth arguing over.
I think less stage lights at churches wouldn't be such a bad thing either. Less is more for me. Less show, the bigger the impact. That's all I know. I don't have any home churches. That Bible, my heart's the church, and my prayer. That's all I need. I've had good times at churches and all that stuff, but I just don't feel like God is just particularly like in any building. And it's supposed to be spread out. And
We are the church, so
yeah, for sure. We're two or three are gathered, but I don't know.
amen.
The tongue thing is whatever. I know I didn't have to speak in tongue for God to do what He's done in my life this last year. So if he makes it important for me, He'll make it important for me, and I'll be obedient and I'll learn everything I can about it or do whatever. But as far as right now is concerned, I mean, I don't know. I'm just surprised it's around so much these days compared to like when it first started. But to each their own. Doesn't mean anybody's doing anything nefarious or whatever. I have a hard time believing it all the time. I don't know who's doing it for real and who's just sounding like it. And I don't like that. If I don't have the discernment there, then I just, ignore it because I don't know what they're saying anyway. So, what else do you want to talk about other than that stuff? Just keeping it real.
What else you want to know?
Um, well, I just believe that you are definitely on your way to becoming an advocate to help, I hope, even more so the younger generation, these poor kids that are growing up, that they have these, I almost said crazy, these over tolerant parents embracing that their 7-year-old boy wears dresses and wants to be a girl, and they're almost championing it and supporting it so they can look like the cool parents on the block. Almost keeping up with the Joneses has gone from having a nice car to like, is your son getting trans surgery this week? And it's sick
Yeah.
mental illness, and it's spiritually, it's dark spirits involved in all that.
Yeah.
And they all want to belong. They all want to be loved and supported. And so if people come in there and be like, yes, embrace your identity. This is who you are. There's 47 genders. It's psychotic and it's evil. I mean, how would you, if you got backlash from people on this, that's another area where you're like, I got the door to slam on them. Like, how would you approach that if somebody's just like, you're evil and Christians go to hell and all this stuff?
What if I got backlash for not agreeing with someone that wanted to?
Yeah, say you were at like a convention or something, and you're speaking out against transgender and more than two genders and all this stuff, and you just get, people are attacking people over this stuff. Um, how firm are you in your belief and in your calling to like advocate for this, that you could withstand the verbal and possible physical attacks that might come?
I'm not all the way there yet. I'm not all the way there yet. Could I handle it? I could handle it to a limit. I stepped out last year when Petersburg had their first Pride Festival, and I put a letter in the paper about it, letter to the editor, and a lot of people were like, "I hope you're prepared for some backlash," and I'm ready. I'm ready. But you know what? I didn't have any backlash, and I think that's because I used scripture to back up what I was saying, but more than that, I wasn't hateful about it. You know, and I think that's what the difference is, because I do have the experience with it. I know what it was like when I was being told what I was being told by preachers and churches, and I understand where the LGBTQ gets it, that Christians are so hateful, because I went to a thing at the Capitol over the summer. To fight for the kids against transgender, and a couple people came up and held the LGBTQ flag. They weren't saying anything. They were just standing there holding the flag. And the representative standing up for the children, Christian, started screaming at these people for holding a flag. That wasn't called for. It wasn't necessary. They were not hurting nothing.
It's counterproductive, at least.
Yeah. So I don't want to be that person, because all that does is make somebody that's already confused hate Christians more. And we don't want anyone to hate us. I mean, we're hated enough.
Yeah, and that would drive them more deeper and more solid in their identity.
Exactly.
Because they're like,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I know, because it did me. I never missed a Pride Fest. Me and my ex, we went to every Pride Fest there was. it drives it deeper into you. It doesn't. There's got to be some love and compassion. That's why I know that I'm not to the point where I need to be to address the transgender completely, because I don't have all that compassion yet. I'm working on it. I have got more now than I did.
Okay.
But I still think it's absolutely absurd that, well, I was with a woman. She left me for another woman. They got married. So we have two women that are married. They got divorced. They both transgendered. Now they're both men. One is with a man and the other is with a woman. Now, how absolutely insane and confused do you have to be? So I know I'm not at the point, because to me, that is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Absolutely insane.
It is, and I definitely don't have the compassion for that. I don't have the. Jesus says loves everybody. I don't have compassion for a pedophile that's out there that's trying to deceive kids and people to hurt and harm kids, because God said tie a millstone around their neck and sink to the deepest part of the sea. So Jesus wants you to love everybody, but God said if those who hurt kids. I mean, so where are we? Where's the gray area there? That's a little bit contradictory to me. I'm not going to be able to love a pedophile whose sole purpose on earth is to hurt children. Not equipped for it. Sorry, I don't know how to do that. I can't fake it. I'm not going to do it. But what I could do is pray that Jesus and God could intervene and remove that sin and that evilness from them. Because I don't believe two things. I don't believe anybody's born gay. Secondly, I don't believe anybody's born to be a pedophile. That's where evil comes in: trauma, pain, abuse, molestation, neglect, everything else. And then it gets embraced. And then they're like, oh, well, it's okay to be this way. Now you have a reason to justify it. And then the community grows, and intolerance and tolerance and tolerance. You tolerate yourself straight to hell. And nobody knows. And it's just like, well, Christians are bad. Look how evil they are. And they're like, oh, ripping down the flag and look at, okay, now we're just proving their point. So our stereotypes of them is our stereotypes of us. Yeah. And it's just this isn't going anywhere. But yeah, could I have a debate and stand up against that community and that whole mindset and everything? I don't know how to do that. I can't say that.
I'm working on it.
I feel it. I respect that so much, and I do not envy it. I do not envy it, but I will support you in that in any way I can.
There's so many people that are hurt and lost, and
yes,
I want to help as many people as I can get set free, but I have to do it with the right heart. And I think I'm close. I'm really close, and I think that's why I'm probably getting attacked as much as I am. But
it makes sense now.
You know, I feel like I grow every day. God's showing me something new. I just have to have faith in myself, and I'm getting there.
You got to also realize that people care, and that people, too, that's in this house right here that care. And all it takes is a couple quick clicks on that phone. And you got 4 ears, if not just 2 ears. And people care. Everybody that's in this chat cares. And you don't even know some of these people existed until you did this live. So let that self-worth keep going at whatever pace it has to, but just keep walking straight and forward. Reach out to me more. If there's if you relate to Deb more, to talk to her about more things specifically, I understand that. But
she failed me, man. She didn't come on tonight.
Well, see? Dun, dun, dun. Canceled. Oh, hey, I gotta spend the night with her every night, so don't get her too mad. Like, taking it on. I can just hear it now. That's not her voice, by the way. She doesn't sound like this. Sorry, babe. It's like, Elaine, Darla, you are making no. Oh my god. I guess I'll be in the car tonight, probably. I did. She said I did. I really did. God, we love Deb Robbins. Everybody tell her you love her. She's okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
we love you.
Tracy, I love you. And I just said that to another female, but I hope it's okay to say because you're my sister. You're a child of
Yeah.
God. We're following Christ. Is that what you're doing? You believe in
Amen.
God? Me too.
Amen.
Am I doing it the same way that you are? No, we've got different lives and different roles and
We do.
different callings and different backgrounds, but you were there for me after that baptism. I'll never forget that. Um, you sure showed up and showed me that somebody cared, and I had my care, too. It wasn't about like, oh, Tracy showed up, but it made me feel really cool, and I'll never forget that, and always thank you for that. And
You're welcome.
if I haven't been here enough for you, if I just kind of wrongly assumed that Tracy was going to be okay and doing fine, and I didn't check in enough, I apologize for that. And I could do that more often. And there's tons of things I've learned tonight that I did not know from the first time we talked. Um, you have all the respect from me in the world for whatever that matters. Thank you for all the kind things you said to me. You've seen this year. You've seen what it's been like for me.
Yeah.
Um, and any time you need help, any encouragement that I can offer, please do. There may be some things I hit you up for that I think you just specifically might know more about than some other people. Um, so I'm going to try to make more of an effort to at least reach out and be like, "Hey, how you doing? What's up today?" And you might text back, pretty good, and that might be it. But at least I'm going to do some of that more often and more consistently, and not let months go by and just be like, "She's probably okay." Because there's months and times and years that went by that I wasn't okay, and nobody was reaching out. So
Yeah.
I understand what that's like. And after so long, you're like, who was there even to reach out to? um, just keep moving forward,
Oh, I
and
plan on it.
whatever pace you're on, that's on. It's not even your pace; it's God's timing. So
It
it's
is.
really
It's
His
all
pace.
God. It's all God.
um, anything else you want to say to all these people? Here's some people just giving you so much praise and shout out: Abigail Crandell, Teresa Melton, uh, Jim Biggs. I mean, he's somebody I'll be talking to a lot more. Has a lot of mental health knowledge, and like I said, PTSD, and he's had his prescription pills, and I mean, he just knows a lot of this stuff that's not just drugs and alcohol related. And so this is where this is going. I can sense this is going there too, Tracy. So when you say that, like, well, this guy's testimony was so dark and deep and stuff, and this one, I'm trying not to get that, and God knows that I'm wanting a little bit broader of a approach to everything, and I just know that's going to happen. And this conversation we're having tonight may just be the catalyst for that. So I'm right there with you. Anything
Well,
else you want to say to everybody? And I mean, I'll ask you to pray us out when we're done.
just anybody, anytime, feel free to reach out if there's anything that I can personally help you through or with or partner you with, whatever. You know, I definitely don't have the knowledge that Trav has with the drugs and the alcohol part of it, but pharmaceuticals, sexual, mental, I'm here. I'm here. So
I, I I would be shocked if you didn't get a few extra voice messages or text messages in the days to come. And this is people reach out to people after they hear their stories and are just they relate. They feel like they can support each other. This is how this grows. So maybe in a few years we'll look back on this night and be like, remember that night you came back on and did the conversation, and then yeah, we are both at different stages and parts in this whole journey, but it's a journey, and I couldn't be prouder to have you as a vital part in that. In any way I could ever help you with anything, I'm right there. So
thank you.
appreciate.
And same for you. You've came a long way. You've came a long way.
I appreciate it. There's a long way to go, but I ain't in no hurry, man.
We ain't never going to hit the finish line till we're up in the sky.
Yeah,
So
you're right. I want to heal as much as I can and be open to that, but there ain't complete healing, complete restoration, and complete redemption until we're in the arms of Christ. And I know that, so I ain't in no hurry.
Oh.
Would you mind praying us out?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this night. I thank you for this time that I've had to spend with Trav and the GBR family, Lord. Lord, this group has been a blessing to so many people, not only myself in the very beginning, and just it's brought so many people, Lord, together, and strangers from every place in this, pretty much, I think, in the world. There's a little bit of everybody in here, Lord, and I'm just so thankful for that, Lord. And I'm thankful for the work that you're doing in Trav, Lord, and how much he has grown, and he's just sacrificed, and you've just shredded off of him, Lord. And I just pray that you would continue to do your work in him, Lord, and that he would continue to seek you in all his ways, Lord. I lift up Deb and his wife, Lord, and I just pray that you would touch her, because she works so hard behind the scenes in this whole group, Lord, and she wants very little recognition, Lord, but you know, Lord, and you recognize her. So I thank you for that, Lord. And I just pray over each and every person in this group, Lord. I just pray that you would touch each one wherever they're at. Give them a big hug, Lord. Let them know that they're all loved, and we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, Lord. We may be different and we may live miles apart, but we're all one. And I just thank you for that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. That was beautiful. Oh man, I almost made it to the end of one without dropping a few. I almost made it. At least I'm consistent.
Hey, there you go.
Tracy, I appreciate it so much. I mean, I hope this. I hope this helped you somewhat too, and just keep climbing, and you've got an army of faith-filled people that weren't really there 8, 9, 10 months ago. I mean, there are a few hundred were, but there's a few that were there when you first gave that on the spot. But God has just grown this group exponentially.
Oh yeah.
And I'm still trying to just do the same things I've been doing, and but he knows that I'm trying to branch out a little bit, because he knows that I have more interest in just drugs and alcohol. To be honest with you, if I could end on this, I'm kind of tired of talking about drugs and alcohol. Me personally, like, it's just like I don't know. I mean, I have to, I guess, for a while yet, but I'm just like, there's just other things that I have interest in. Like drugs and alcohol were a part of my life. It got me really to this point, but they don't play a role in my current life. So why do I keep talking about the addict that I used to be when I haven't been for 368 days? People can say once an addict, always an addict, but
No.
I'm pretty sure that God removed certain things that always made me run back to drugs and alcohol. Now he's like, now you walk forward with my son and face accountability. You ain't going to have no drugs or alcohol to fall back on. You're going to be sober minded, and things are going to hurt now and then. Things are going to be uncomfortable. But if I'm with you, you can't even be against yourself. And I'm like, all right, God, let's watch what he does in the next few weeks. There's going to be this is kind of like, you know what this reminds me of right quick? When, like I said again, when we had that text message thing months and months and months ago about what are we doing with this group? Like, what can we do? It's kind of just, plateaued. And then God just showed up and took it to another phase. And now you're on here being like, well, I got other things that I kind of want to talk about and all these other issues. And I'm kind of like that too. I'm kind of in the same.
Branching. It's going to start branching out.
So hold on to your seatbelts. The way this group ends by the end of this year, I don't think will be like the way it looked when we began. You were there in the beginning. You've been there, you're here now for it. if you don't see the vital role that you're playing in this group in other areas, okay, may not just have to be drugs and alcohol. Tracy Scoggins is here for everybody in this group. If it has to do with drugs and alcohol, she might say, talk to Trav. But if somebody hits me up and has certain questions about some of the things that she's wanting to talk about and advocate for, I might be like, Tracy, you mind if I send you some, person's name or number? And she's open to talk to anybody at any time about that. Except for like what, past midnight or something, we all got to sleep, right?
Dude, I'm old. I go to bed early. but the phone's always by me, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those, if it's, I know Teresa Melton said, people, she leaves her phone on. People can call her at 2 a.m. and God bless her. I'm not gonna lie and say I'm the same way. My phone's turned down about 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I hope that isn't something people don't like about me, but at least I'm telling you the truth. I'll see the messages and I respond to them in the morning, but man, I need my bed. I need my sleep. So if God tells me to leave my phone on, then I will. But He hasn't said that yet. That's fine. Tracy, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. I wish you the best evening. And, I've heard it said before from a pretty popular guy in town, but I believe it. The best is yet to come. All right.
Thank you, Trav.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. Thanks for everybody that's been in the chat tonight. And Tracy Scoggins, everybody. Thanks, Tracy. I'll see you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.